introduce the KPMG team, and we're going to have Armagon. I got it right. I was pausing because I was nervous. I was saying, Armagon will introduce the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. You're doing a great job, by the way. Thank you. She's doing a great job. Got everybody? Yeah. That's great. Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Armagon Ahmed. My official title at KPMG is I'm president or managing partner for digital and innovation, but my real title in life is that I'm raised by a very strong mother who always said to me that strong mothers raise strong men. So I'm so glad that I am in the company of people. If my 80-year-old mother would be here, she would be proud to see the initiatives that are being started. Let me just tell you a little bit about me. I actually came to Canada as an immigrant at the age of 15 with no parents, and with $100 in my pocket. And for me to be standing here and after living in the U.S. and working for the largest conglomerates in California to Boston to then living in China and then in Europe, I would tell you that when I came back to Canada about 4 years ago and had a chance to meet with Minister at that time, the Minister of ISED, Minister Navdeep Bains, and then now the Minister Champagne, and the work that they have started here, it truly makes me feel, especially as a Muslim Canadian immigrant who has been kicked off of planes after 9/11 many times because of my last name being Ahmed. If Ahmed and Mohammed, if you see both of those names, that essentially means you're a Muslim, and then you can get racially profiled pretty quickly. And it hurts even more when you are in business class wearing a nice suit and your colleagues don't stand up for you to say, hey, this person's with me, right? So, everyone has their place. Everyone's gone through this. But until I came back to Canada, I truly felt, Canada has something special when a minister at that time who is a Sikh descent, and he used to joke and say that I'm a son of a cabinet maker because his father was a cabinet maker who came to Canada, and now he's the cabinet minister, right? And it's only in Canada that you can see that. And I know Marcy Ian's not here, and Marcy talks a lot about this, and I know Francois-Philippe Champagne talks a lot about this, the Minister of Champagne. And I'm just so grateful to be able to talk about the good work that our team has been doing at KPMG with the minister's office, and I want to recognize, because I think that's very important that we should, because the people who decide to not live in corporate worlds and actually try to do the life of service, which is not a very high-paying job, and it is a lot of criticism that all of us give them. But I do want to recognize the ISET team that's been working with us, the Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Ministry, who started the 50/30 initiative because they felt that there was something that, the innovation part is not just research and development and technology. Innovation also happens in equity and diversity as well. So Selena Moreau, I think she's here today. Selena, you want to just stand up for a second? She's representing ISED, so thank you for your service. Thank you for choosing the life of service. We appreciate it. I know Tina, Cyril, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing everyone's names right, but I asked my team to get me the names, so thank you. Mary Goki, Etienne, Renee Massey, and then Minister Champagne's office. I just want to thank them for working on this 50/30 challenge. They saw that there was a problem in corporate Canada, in government of Canada, if you look at our professional institutions, as well as our research academics, our public service, we don't have 50/30. We don't have 50% gender balance, and we don't have the 30% Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So it's great to see a ministry taking on a challenge like this, and not a corporate-led challenge, it's a ministry-led challenge, which we're all here talking about. And I'm also a co-founder of an organization called Coalition of Innovation Leaders Against Racism, and we formalized this, the CELAR group with Mars, which is the largest innovation hub, talk about innovation, Young Vu, who is also my co-founder for CLAR, is the CEO, and Serena, if you want to stand up, sorry, I'm going to embarrass you too. She's the executive director of CLAR. And the hope of CLAR was really all about that, we need to get all of these folks who are innovating. And by the way, innovators are not just people who work at Google and Facebook or, people like me who have worked in tech industry. They are the City of Toronto Chief Technology Officer. They are the Canadian School of Public Service President Taiki Cerniadis. It is, Sarah Paquette, who is the FinTrack, the anti-money laundering agency of Canada that protects us. It is also University of Waterloo, Vivek Goel. It is also the University, the Toronto Metropolitan University. I'm getting it right now. I stopped saying Ryerson. And, Mohammed Lashmi, and many of them. And we all came together and said, this cannot just be a government-led initiative. It also needs to be an initiative that all of us, corporate, research academics, as well as startups and entrepreneurs, small, medium, large, women-owned businesses. Our chair is Claudette McGowan, who recently launched something called a Firehood. It's the first women-led venture capital firm that is only investing in women-owned businesses in terms of technology. You usually don't see that. You usually have a bunch of men running venture capitalists around the world. And to have a black woman, only black woman who's running the chief cybersecurity officer of TD Bank, who's also the chair of CLAR, doing that work. So why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because innovation doesn't come out of Google, Facebook, doesn't come out of Uber, doesn't come out of all of those. Innovation comes out of all of us. And we all said at CLAR that we wanted to go around and get the best out of all of the corporations, agencies, public service, so we can learn from them. So after doing that, and now I'm putting my KPMG hat on and introducing Sylvia Gonzalez, because I'll tell you the work that Sylvia and her team has done to then partner with ISED and partner with a lot of the enablers, like the ones you just listened to at the panel, was all about how do you take the best practices after interviewing a very large set of stakeholders to come up with an actual toolkit, what works toolkit for the 50-30 challenge. And they've been working on it for almost a year now, and I know they're super excited to talk about it. So Sylvia, why don't I turn it over to you to introduce the team, and then maybe I'll share a few more details of your good work. You want to come up?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to see so many stories, so many lived experiences, and so much passion to really change the world that we live in for everyone, and especially for women that are represented here. I'm a proud bisexual, proud Latinx, proud single mother, and I'm in awe to be participating here with this magnificent team who really helps us to drive things to the borderline of how do we do things. So really that's what we want to present to you today. Oriana, please introduce yourself a little bit. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Oriana. I have the great pleasure of working with this lovely team you see here. My background's in community and social psychology, where I did my PhD in the mental health area. So a lot of what drives me and in our work is making sure that people who are impacted by decisions have a say in those very decision-making processes themselves. So pleasure to meet you all and be here with you. Pass it over to you, Nat.
Bonjour, enchantée. J'espère qu'il y a des francophones dans la salle. Show of hands, maybe. I'm a consultant out of the practice in Montreal, and I had the pleasure of discovering this wonderful team and discovering what I always say, the human side to consulting, because EDI has really been a beautiful discovery, and it's great to work with this team. J'étais responsable du développement des boîtes à outils pour le défi 50-30, des boîtes à outils francophones, évidemment, pour s'assurer que la perspective francophone était reconnue. Ma collègue Isha.
Hi everyone, my name is Isha. I am a senior consultant with our KPMG People and Change team. As Armagon was saying, have been part of this project for almost a year. So very exciting to be here today to present the What Works Toolkit to you all. And as a personal note, as a first-generation Canadian, I am personally honored to have been a part of this project, to be a part of Canadian history. to build upon the experiences of my grandparents and my parents who immigrated to Canada over 30 years ago. So very excited to present all of our hard work to you all today.
Wonderful. So these young women have been working on this project for the last year, and I have led quite a few innovation work streams in my life, and I'll tell you what you're about to see is pretty amazing because if you look at Australia and you look at the United States, you look at different European countries, you look at a lot of Asian countries, a lot of people, in this new industrial revolution that we're part of, things are moving a lot faster. So when my parents grew up, you would work at one company, get a gold watch, retire. How many of you know that story? Yes? This used to be a story at one time. Because the companies on the Standards & Poor, S&P 500, would used to last for 60 years. Now those same companies only last for S&P 500 for 11 years. Do you know why that is? It's because technology is moving so fast, and some of the companies are not able to adapt to the technology and have the mindset, a growth mindset, and get away from the fixed mindset. So one of the reasons CELAR came into existence along with 50/30 and many of these initiatives is because what has served us for the past is not going to serve us for the future. So in the past, if we didn't include women, if we didn't include Black, Indigenous people of color, or LGBTQ plus folks, the new innovation economy is 12% of our Canadian GDP now, 12%, and is growing at 3 to 6 times faster than any other sector of our GDP. 12% growing 3 to 6x. Our regular GDP in this country is growing at single digits. So in the next 8 years, imagine what the GDP will be. Global GDP for innovation economy is now 25%. So Canada is a bit behind. So as Canada continues to innovate and new jobs, new skills, new entrepreneurs, I think women, I think the BIPOC folks, along with LGBTQ and all the minorities, have an equal, especially the disabilities numbers that I know there was a good question that was asked, and when I looked at that number that the team had put together, the 645,000 folks in the workforce that have accessibilities, because I'm a dyslexic individual, I have an invisible disability, I always call it my abilities, but it is something that we have to keep in mind that there's a lot of work that we need to get done. Just in the last year, when CELAR came into existence, and 50/30 Challenge and others that had to think about some best practices, and these are not best practices that come from CELAR. CELAR is just a not-for-profit, but we made sure as part of the 50/30 initiatives that, when you look at TD Bank, or you look at Government of Canada, or you look at University of Waterloo, or you look at Simon Fraser University, or if you look at different agencies, they all had to think about asking each one of these leaders to have reverse mentorship. So I had to select somebody from Rexdale or Jane and Finch, underserved areas, a Black woman, to reverse mentor her, and actually learned more from her than I did, than I was able to teach her. But there was 40 other people like me who were all in their own cocoons that didn't know what the challenge was of colored women, right, dealing with a lot of the challenges. So that was one, and that actually touched about 500 youth. There was 96 grants that were given to Black-led businesses, over 1,700 applications that were given. Facebook and Meta actually stepped up, their Canadian leader. And by the way, all of these leaders, when you go and ask them, very first thing that they will tell you is that, here's my Canadian passport, and then I work for a Google or a TD or a KPMG. Everyone loves being Canadian first. So it doesn't matter what company someone works at, it's your Canadian passport first. And that's what I love about this country. And then the last thing I'll say, and they'll walk you through it, is the Black North Initiative and other initiatives like the Diversity Institute and many other initiatives that are doing amazing work. We're lagging behind. Globe and Mail just came out with the article a couple of weeks ago that sort of said that, we were supposed to be reaching certain targets, and out of the 500 organizations that signed to say that they were going to achieve those targets, 70% of those organizations didn't even respond to how they're doing after 1 year, right? So setting targets, it's like setting targets for climate change and saying, oh, we will achieve with hopes and dreams. setting targets is one thing, but actually doing something about it, what all of you are doing, and this toolkit and What Works toolkit is putting together is really what we need to do, right, in order to accelerate this. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia and the team, who's going to walk you through it.
Thank you so much, Armagon. Well, we're delighted to introduce the 50/30 Challenge What Works toolkit. We have been honored to work on this toolkit because it really represents what we've heard today. We have seen so many broken dreams. People like us that we heard today want to be represented in those boards in Canada, want to be part of those tables that are making decisions, want to be heard as women or as in any other identity that we have in our intersectionality. So for us, it is important to see that this gender parity and significant representation that we want to create on boards is only the representation of everything that needs to happen to get there, which is changing the talent pipeline, which is getting everyone at the table to be able to make decisions throughout corporate Canada, government agencies and associations to really change where we stand today. We've heard many good things about Canada and also many things that we still have to change. I really was very moved by the stories, by the statistics, but about every initiative that we heard this morning. And we really want to incorporate a little bit of how to with this toolkit. So you'll hear from our team today what it means. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I think to echo some of what the team has said and what Isha was saying, I think really I want to take this moment to say how privileged we feel to be a part of this moment in building this What Works toolkit and really incorporating those voices and understanding that this is part of a journey and what that looks like. So what you see behind me, behind us, is what we call the spectrum of belonging. What does that mean? I think really all the effort and everyone's insights who are part of building this toolkit to make it what it is really underscores that. It underscores that this is about a long-term journey. This is about change as a whole. This is not a checkbox exercise. There are a lot of steps involved in it. But most importantly, besides the steps, not to be daunted by that, but rather to think it's about incorporating people's voices and what does that look like, and making sure that we focus on doing that. So what you'll see there is understanding that to get to a sense where people feel welcomed, valued, respected, everyone does, no matter who they are, really requires all these different steps in getting there. So diversity being just that first step of acknowledging different layers of identities that people have, but knowing that that is just one step in that process to get to that. Then you have to consider how do you build inclusion. Then you consider the systems and structures as well and the context surrounding that. And you think about equity and fair access to opportunity and what that looks like. And so as you see accessibility underscored there, you can think about that as well. And this is accessibility in a broad sense in terms of removing barriers, in terms of thinking about equitable access to opportunities, to resources, and what that means, and everything that's been discussed here. So it really is about a culture change. It really is about listening, and not just listening, but hearing. And I think that's a message that we've heard as well. And so this challenge really underscores the actions that you can take in that. And we understand that everyone's context is different. Everyone brings their experiences and their voices to bear, and it's important that we incorporate that. So this is really the foundation of our work and of the toolkit, and we are really looking forward to talking through the rest of that with you. Et avec ça, je te passe la parole, Nathalie.
Merci, Oriana. Thanks again. Thank you. Very privileged to be here. You're my first live audience since COVID. Donc, juste pour rebondir un peu sur ce que Oriana disait, en effet, pour favoriser la diversité, l'inclusion, une organisation, une entreprise, les leaders doivent vraiment être ouverts à l'idée de pas seulement cerner puis identifier, mais aussi d'éliminer les obstacles que certains individus, certains groupes font face. Donc, tu peux aller à la prochaine planche, Isha, merci. Donc, vraiment, on a chacun un rôle à jouer pour créer une économie qui est forte, une économie qui est inclusive, une économie qui est diverse. La promotion de l'équité, de la diversité, de l'inclusion, c'est un apprentissage continu. C'est un apprentissage continu pour nous ici. It's a continuous learning. EDI is a continuous learning for all of us. C'est un apprentissage qui est unique pour chaque organisation, mais c'est aussi un apprentissage qui est unique pour chaque individu. Ça implique énormément de conversations, énormément d'échanges, énormément d'itérations, puis aussi énormément de croissance. Donc, les boîtes à outils, ce qui fonctionne dans le défi 50-30, vous propose des ressources, ils vous proposent du soutien, des pratiques exemplaires pour vraiment aider les organisations, aider les dirigeants, les dirigeantes, les entreprises à faire progresser l'équité, la diversité et l'inclusion au sein des organisations, au sein des entreprises. Donc, on revient vers le défi 50-30 qui vraiment s'adresse à l'ensemble du pays, à l'ensemble du Canada, puis les boîtes à outils qui s'adressent à chacun et chacune d'entre nous, chaque Canadien et Canadienne. Donc, énormément de réflexions ont été mises dans le développement des boîtes à outils. Elles ont été conçues pour vous soutenir, pour soutenir les entreprises, les organisations, dans vos efforts de vraiment lancer des conversations en matière d'équité, de diversité, d'inclusion, de créer des espaces sûrs, des espaces sécuritaires, des espaces inclusifs, collaboratifs, d'aider à trouver les meilleurs talents, de façon équitable, de façon inclusive, puis vraiment tout ça dans l'optique de défendre l'équité dans le milieu de travail, puis vraiment afin que chacun et chacune ait la possibilité, l'opportunité de vraiment créer un impact novateur. Donc, pour résumer, l'objectif du défi 50-30, c'est vraiment qu'ensemble, chacun d'entre nous, on crée un pays, on crée un Canada qui valorise, mais qui utilise aussi le pouvoir de notre diversité pour créer des milieux de travail où chacun et chacune vraiment peuvent s'épanouir, puis où chacun peut bénéficier d'un grand sentiment d'appartenance. Merci, j'espère que vous m'avez compris. Isha.
Merci, Nathalie. I will be switching back into English, so we are going on a bit of a roller coaster. But we wanted to now move and talk a bit more about the What Works Toolkit and how it came to be. So as Armagon mentioned, this has been a process of over a year, or close to a year, rather, and it has been founded on a fundamental belief of all of our team members, which is nothing about me without me. We wanted to make sure that voices were heard, that voices were being represented, and that this toolkit represents more than just the lived experiences of our team, but rather the lived experiences of individuals and of organizations across Canada. There were 3 channels through which we developed the toolkit to ensure that our approach was both driven through community as well as data-based insights. The first was the community empathy workshops, which we discussed a little bit earlier in terms of stakeholder workshops that we had between the period of January to May 2022. Through these, we had participation from Francophone as well as Anglophone Canadians and Canadian organizations, and it really opened our eyes to the challenges being faced by various priority groups, as well as the needs of different organizations, so we could hear a bit more about how we could make this toolkit helpful for all of you when you start to use it and as you start to navigate through it. The themes that we learned and the themes that we gathered from these community empathy workshops were then taken into our stakeholder interviews. And so this allowed us to deep dive into various topics with subject matter professional experts from the community so that we could learn based on their experiences what solutions and what actions actually make sense and what's feasible for us to recommend and to embed throughout the toolkit. Finally, as KPMG, we accessed our leading practice research, but also performed secondary research from various organizations, some of which have spoken today already, who have a plethora of information about the community, about various priority groups, so that, again, we could add further layers to the What Works toolkit and ensure that we were talking about the different types of organizations that are present both in this room, but of course across Canada as well. So you'll see this research come through in various stages of the toolkit. You'll see different callouts for priority groups, for different organizational sizes, different sectors of organizations, as well as where you may be geographically located, and your maturity level or where you're starting on this very important journey. So I'll flip to the next slide. With that, very excited to be talking about the What Works Toolkit, which is what I'm sure most of you were waiting for in our presentation. So as you can see here, we have 6 tools that create the What Works Toolkit, and I'll be walking through all of them from left to right, starting with mapping your journey to 50/30. So this is the first tool within the What Works Toolkit. It is the landing page for the toolkit as well. And essentially, this provides an interactive bingo sheet format where you can start to see different areas that your organization may be interested in focusing on. If there maybe isn't a particular tool that speaks to you just at the beginning, it's a great starting point. And all of the different areas of focus within this tool are rooted in the idea of promoting psychological safety and that sense of belonging. So once you take a look at the first tool, you will be redirected from the tile you click on into various areas of the subsequent 5 tools that focus on that specific topic you are looking to explore. The second tool that we have is 10 actions you can take, and this really is inspired by the idea of everyone and anyone being a part of this movement, whether at an individual level you just want to increase your personal learnings, or if you're working to support your organization towards the 50/30 challenge but don't know where to start. It provides 10 concrete actions that everyone can take. It includes some fun micro-learnings as well, and resources from the community so that you can start to increase your personal awareness, but also see what you can do at the individual level to support priority group talent. The third tool is starting the conversation. And a lot of what we heard from our community empathy workshops was that people want to have these conversations. They want to create these brave discussions, but they often don't know where to start, how to start, what to say. And it can often be a very daunting task for many of us. So the Starting the Conversation tool is really focused on just that, in that it provides the simple ABCs for starting the conversation for anyone who may be unfamiliar in this space and just wants to learn more and to ask questions. And it provides different tools and resources for you to have conversations informally with your colleagues or formally at leadership levels within your organization. The fourth tool is the Talent Processes tool, and this one is very close to my heart, and I know we spoke a lot about it as well during the panel discussion, and the role that talent processes play in helping or creating obstacles also for different priority groups. So this tool deep dives into different talent processes, everything from recruitment to training and mentorship, development, as well as succession planning, and starting from the beginning, so investing in the next generation of leaders. And this tool provides different actions and recommendations across each of these processes so that you can help to remove obstacles that may be present for different priority group leaders. The fifth tool, and I know I'm going through these but a little quickly, but I want to make sure you all get time for your break afterwards and a nice stretch. The fifth tool is the Board and Leader Guidebook, and so this is a handbook for boards and leaders in order to charter the course for their organization. So how do you create, inclusive behaviors? How do you model this in your workplace? And how are you setting the tone for your organization as you embark on the 50/30 challenge? Finally, the last tool in the What Works Toolkit is the Guide to Sustaining Organizational Change. This is focused on future-proofing your organization as you continue forward. Oriana brought up a really good point in that this is not a checkbox activity, and it's a continuous journey for all of us and for the country as well. And so this is focused on policies, on systems and structures, and different changes that you can make with data collection as well as you start to approach the 50/30 challenge and what you can do once you complete the challenge as well. So each of these 6 tools are available in a accessible PDF format in both English and French for all of you to access, and it's also kindly being hosted by the Diversity Institute, so thank you, Wendy and team, in an interactive digital format that will be available to all of you and to the general public very soon.
And just to add one thing, as Isha was saying, in the toolkit, really, our goal is not to, not to take over all the existing tools and workbooks and amazing research that's been done, but to really bring it together in what we hope is a user-friendly way and that you can navigate, as Isha was explaining. And within the tool, each tool and within the toolkit itself, we've put together different existing resources and reports that you can access, so it is a repository in that way. And so we do want to send out our gratitude for everyone doing this important work, and you can access all those tools within that as well.
Absolutely, thanks, Oriana. So I'll now pass it over to Sylvia to conclude the presentation.
Thank you so much. Well, as you can see, the tools are directed to how to start, but also how to sustain the change. We want to create systemic change, and this will help you to drive the voices that you have in your organizations, drive the voices that you maybe haven't heard for many years because we've been silent, but really consider what we have here as a quote from the Community Empathy Workshop participant. Diversity is a garden, and we really need to tend it, to give it care every day, and to consider that all of us are different, and we will make a beautiful garden if we consider all of us and the beauty that we all bring. Thank you so much.